Welcome to America's Healer with Dr. Jason West. Dr. West and his guest experts are about to open your eyes to a whole new perspective on the medical world. Now, here is your host, world-renowned Dr. Jason West.
All right, you guys, we have a fantastic show we put together on medical nutritional therapy and building blocks. We started off our first segment on arthritis. Then we started talking about rusty hinge arthritis. And then I got so much feedback from people saying, look, you always talk about how if you get people back in balance, you give them building blocks that they can heal. Would you please talk about supplements for arthritis, supplements for your stomach, supplements for heart conditions, supplements for brain conditions? And so we're pivoting just a little bit, and we're going to be talking about things that really make a difference in getting the building blocks into the system, the energy molecules, and it's just fantastic. So we're calling this segment nutrient simplification or supplement simplification. And remember, if you have questions, you're welcome to call in at 866-472-5792 on the VoiceAmerica Radio Network. We're also going to be showing some graphs and stuff like that, some images that I have in front of me as prompts. And if you'd like to see the video component, you can check out this recorded show with the video on our YouTube channel, which is Dr. West and Healthy Healing TV. I've always wanted to give a shout out to the people that have made such a difference. And I want to dedicate this show to my dad, who passed away in 2011. And the reason why I wanted to dedicate it to him is because not only is he the best healer that I've ever known, but so many things of how I can help people and I'm helping people, I learned from him. And one of the things that he just drilled into me, he would always say, hey, Jason, the problem with healthcare is when doctors let their ego get in the way of helping people. And why I say that is I always wanted to give credit from where I've learned things, from how we are getting our outcomes, where I was able to discover things. So much of it is from the patients that are in front of me, but also it's from our team at the West Clinic. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to the two-time Doctor of the Year award winner, Dr. Nelson, who we worked together for about 7 years, and the world's greatest nurse practitioner, Shelby Starter. We are constantly putting our head together so that we can focus in and help people to get the best outcomes. So that now that the recognition is out of the way, I also wanted to do a quick shout out to so many mentors and just so many people that have laid the groundwork so that we can reach, teach, and heal the world. And what I mean by that is we really want to help people to understand their medical options, some treatment considerations, what they can do at home to be healthy, and how their lifestyle is such an important component of the health journey. So if you can't join us with live, I just want to remind everybody, we're literally on every platform: Apple, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora. We run the video component back on Facebook Live, YouTube, and then you can always see it on our blog. So with no further hesitation, let's jump into supplement simplification. Now, this is really, really important because if there's something that you can do for your health that is going to help you, you also need to recognize there's things that you can do for your health that are not going to be advantageous or helpful. And so I just wanted to say, look, with nutritional supplements that give you building blocks, as much good as they can also do some harm. And I just wanted to tell people, like, nutritional supplements are just like over-the-counter medicines. They are not benign. They are not just something that you can take and only do good. They can actually do bad. So let me give you a couple examples of that. We're going to talk a ton about nutritional supplements, essential fatty acids, vitamin D, the miracle mineral of magnesium, what you can do for nerve health, like alpha-lipoic acid, and what things that you can do specifically to make vitamin C work. Like if you take vitamin C, but you don't have some of the cofactors, it doesn't do you any good. So yes, we're going to address those, but I also wanted to talk about some things that I think can be really harmful. Number one, is iron. And I see this so much, and I just wanted to give people an awareness that iron is kind of like blood sugar. You know, if your blood sugar is too high, what can happen is you can get diabetes, and it can make your nerves not work. You can get neuropathy. It's really hard on your kidneys. Eventually, like, it's a really tough thing for your health and can be terminal. On the flip side, if your blood sugar is too low, in the case of what they call neuroglycopenia, which, if you break down the word, if your blood sugar drops, then the nerves fail. And if your blood sugar gets too low, you can lapse into a coma and die. So where blood sugar is, it should be in the optimal range. So I like to see those between, 90 and 100 on a fasting blood sugar test. But what I'm trying to get at is there's some iron supplementation can be really, really important and really, really bad for you. And this is why when people say, when they come in the office, what supplements do you take? And they'll say, well, I'm taking, vitamin D3, which I hope everybody's taking. I'm taking, a multivitamin. A lot of times people think that they should be taking iron, and that is a big fat maybe. Like, you should not be taking iron unless you need it. And most of the time, people are taking it and they don't know if they need it or not. And it can be really dangerous. Like, vitamin or iron can really cause problems. It's toxic to the system if there's too much. Now, if we don't have enough, you have anemia, and which is one of the biggest causes of fatigue. And when people come into the offices, the number one secondary complaint is energy levels. So what I mean by that, primary complaint, someone will come in and they'll say, look, I have a headache, or I have, constipation, I have diarrhea, I have an ankle pain. And then I always ask, well, what is there anything else bothering you? They always say energy. Now, one of the reasons I think that is because our stress levels are really high, and people don't always have the greatest stress outlet. So every radio show, every patient conversations, I'm constantly asking, do you have something that you can allow a stress outlet? Is it prayer? Is it journaling? Is it meditation? Is it going on a drive? Is it listening to music? Is it playing music? Is it having a conversation? I mean, there's a really healthy reason to have an outlet. If you don't, then what happens is stress isn't a disease. It just makes everything worse. And so we always want to talk about a stress outlet. And we also want to start talking about the supplement simplification. We want to make sure that you're not taking the wrong things. One of the things where iron supplementation it goes back thousands of years. The soldiers in the Roman Empire used to think that iron would make them tough. And so one of the traditions that they had before they go to battle, and this just turns my stomach, is they would literally sharpen their swords and their spears and everything over a big pot of wine. And they thought that literally the filings coming off of the metal would get, and then they would drink the wine and it would make them healthy. It's the worst thing that they could really do, is this heavy toxicity and heavy metals and the wrong kinds of iron in your system, or too much iron. Literally what it does it's like kryptonite to Superman. Makes it so you don't function. So anybody listening, if you are taking iron, let's get a blood test and let's make sure that you need it. Like, ideal total iron levels should be in that 80 to about 110 range. And if you are around 100, if you're a little bit above 100, do not be taking supplemental iron. It's another example of something bad to take in the supplement world, which we want to clear this up, is taking the wrong kind of calcium. Taking the wrong kind of calcium is so deleterious to your health. It's just so difficult, and the body doesn't really know what to do with it. So I really think that it stores it up along the 26,000 miles of vessel systems, and literally it makes the arteries hard. We call that arteriosclerosis. And now we have cardiovascular disease, and makes the blood pressure go up because there's not so much elasticity in the arteries and veins. And you don't want to do that. So the right kind of calcium, and calcium, when it's in the right place, is essential for health. It helps your bones. It helps your muscles. It really helps your immune system. If calcium's in the wrong place, like if we don't have calcium in the bones, then we got osteoporosis, your immune system isn't very efficient. You can't do the complement cascade, which is so important in the immune system process. And if we have calcium too much in the bloodstream, what happens is it settles out, and now we get bursitis and we get cataracts and we get kidney stones and so much of the calcium on the market. I ask people, what are they taking? Well, my doctor told me that I'm an osteoporosis risk. So I went over to the big box chain store and I got some calcium. And look right here, Dr. West, it says on the label, that it's 150 or 200% of the recommended daily allowance. And my response on that is, with the wrong calcium, as we look at it, we'll say, yes, there's tons and tons of calcium there, but we can't use it. It's calcium carbonate. It's too hard. We can't but really break it down. So 2 things to be really careful of. 1, the wrong calcium, and 2, iron. And we're going to be talking about other things as we get into this supplement simplification. And we're just going to start with the basics and picking up common questions that I get asked in the office. So starting off right away, and again, we're going to be looking at pictures and stuff like that inside of this radio show. You're hearing me by voice, but if you want to see some of the graphs and statistics, just check us out on our YouTube channel, Facebook Live, or you can pick us up on the replay or a blog post. Okay, one of the first questions that I get asked all the time is, do I need supplements? And I've had people come in and say, look at my food journal. I'm eating everything right. And my response is, well, that's one of the best things that you can do for health, particularly for metabolism, is to have a food journal. And the best source of supplements, the best source of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and herbs and everything else is your knife and fork. If you're eating healthy and alive foods close to the ground as possible, what I mean by that is if you go out into your garden and you literally pull up a carrot and you rinse it off and you eat it, I think that is really, really healthy for you. If you take that carrot and turn it into carrot cake, well, now we've lost a lot of the nutrients and we bastardized the beta carotene, the vitamin A, everything inside of that carrot. We've put some bad things in it, refined white sugar and some other things that take a food, and now we've made it a fraction how effective before. So when I talk about having things close to the ground, that's just an example. And looking at what the research is showing is a healthy diet good enough to have your nutrients? And the answer is probably not. And it's really based upon the soil health that we have available, because just compared to 50 years ago, based amount on the pollution in the air we breathe, the acceptable contamination, the chemicals that we put on food for fertilizers and for insecticides, the water that we consume, the thoughtless exposure to other people's contagious ailments, like we are not in as healthy an environment. And I don't think you can get all of the nutrients from your foods that you could 50 or 60 years ago. And so one of the key elements of health is when our immune system is working based upon the nutrients that we receive, your body has an amazing ability to adapt and overcome and to be healthy. And when I talk about medical nutritional therapy, the basis for working with people in the office is healthy people are balanced. When you get sick, when you get symptoms, what happens is you get out of balance and it's hard for you to get optimal levels. And it's hard to get it from our nutrients. And despite the fact that most people think that they are eating ideal or they're eating really clean, one, it's really hard to do that. And two, it really goes back to the soil. And our soil is not nearly as healthy as it used to be. So many of the ways that we grow food, we're not doing crop rotation, we're not using, compost. We're just throwing on, nitrogen and phosphorus and some carbon, and then we're hammering it with water. And so we can make the perfect example of this is a lot of times people go into the store and you see this ideal tomato, or you see the strawberry and it looks great. And then what happens is and it's kind of tasteless. And sometimes what is happening is it has the nutrients to look good, but it doesn't taste good because we're not pulling out the minerals out of the soil that we used to because of a little bit different farming practices. This is why, in my opinion, home-grown food is so much tastier than mass-processed food. So the soil isn't as healthy as it used to be. Also, the dirt beneath our feet, it is not the quality that it was 5 decades ago. And there was a nutritional study that looked at 43 different fruits and vegetables and looked at the 6 nutrients of vitamin C, phosphorus, iron levels, vitamin B2, and vitamin C. And we've seen a huge decline in the last 50 years where there's just not as much nutrients. And so when people say, can I just get everything from my knife and fork? And the answer is that's exactly where we're supposed to get it for. And then what we use medical nutritional therapy and supplements for is to make sure that we're not missing anything. It literally is food insurance. And so when my friends tease me about, Dr. West, how many supplements have you taken? And I start listing them off. I'm taking vitamin C, I'm taking vitamin D, I'm taking annatto E, I'm taking phosphorus, I'm taking phosphatidylcholine and alpha lipoic acid and digestive enzymes. And they all chuckle at me and I'm like, I just want to make it so that I don't get sick. So to kind of summarize that, the farming practices, I think, are set up to have ideal crop production, but I'm not sure that they're set up to have the ideal nutrient intake. And a lot of the foods that we're eating aren't produced locally. And I'm going to talk about why I think that is so important. The depleted soil, the increasing pesticides and fertilizers and throwing, nitrogen and phosphorus and water on, and not having some of these other micronutrients. We have a whole discussion we're going to come at to another time about genetically modified foods, the lifestyle changes of how they're eating. I think there's so much importance to have a social interaction on that and taking the time to eat. And this is one of the things I struggle with. I don't have time to eat. I got to get stuff in. I want to get stuff done. But I think that there's a really important component of slowing things down and chewing your food enough. The mastication process in your mouth is so important. Aging and the risk of malnutrition. And then we're talking about stress. So as we're getting ready to head into break, just a quick summary of what we've covered. We started off with something that affects a lot of people, and that was arthritis. And then we talked about having acetylmyristolate and glucosamine and collagen peptides. And then we moved into rusty hinge arthritis, which was our show last week, about what you can do to get vitamin lubrication, essential fatty acids in the joint. And then so many people, interactions in the office and online after they're hearing the show saying, just help me to understand what to take and why, is the genesis of this show, which is about medical nutritional therapy. And as we come back, we're going to be talking about the core 4. We're going to be talking about vitamin D and essential fatty acids, not only just omega-3s, omega-6s, 7s, 9s, and why vitamin D is so important. The miracle mineral of magnesium is part of our core package, and where to get quality supplements. So I'm excited that you're tuned in. Just as a quick reminder, if you have questions, we can invite you to call in at the number 866-472-5792. I'm Dr. Jason West on the Voice America Network, and we're talking about supplement simplification. And I'm excited to go into questions and sources after we come to
click register at the top right.
You're listening to America's Healer with Dr. Jason West. If you have a question for Dr. West or his guests, feel free to join us on the show at 866-472-5792. That's 866-472-5792. Now, back to the show.
All right, you guys. So the show what we're putting together is called Supplement Simplification, because there's so much confusion on what to take and how to take it and why to take it and quality. And so I decided, hey, let's just really cover the basics, because so many healthcare conditions, fibromyalgia, fatigue, chronic viral infections, stomach problems can be improved by a simple baseline of high quality medical nutritional therapy. And one of the questions I get asked all the time is, hey, if I'm feeling healthy, do I need to take supplements? And then when people aren't feeling very well, a lot of times they'll say, can I just get out of the diet? So in our first segment, we talked about why supplements are important. They're literally like food insurance. And the reason why we're deficient in those foods is because of the changing farming practices. And by the way, I'm not putting any blame on farmers. I married into a farming family, and I'm so impressed by the work ethic and the knowledge and everything that they have. But I also want to recognize that we're not always getting the foods that we eat locally. Like, we can get foods from thousands of miles away or continents away where we really don't know, well, what are you putting on the foods, and is it even healthy for you? Like, I had a discussion with a farmer on Wednesday in the office this week, saying, hey, Dr. West, what kind of show are you going to have? And I said, well, we're going to talk about supplements and what happens with the soil that literally we've depleted the top couple feet of soils, and they're not as healthy as they used to be. And he's like, oh my gosh, you should see what we were learning about. He was telling me about a class that he had been to where a company had come in and say, we want to spray all of the foods with this chemical to, one, kill the plant so that we can harvest it, and we want to make sure that we kill all of the weeds, because we don't want any of those weeds in where we're going to store our harvest, because it can create heat and it can cause some problems inside of the storage. And so what happens was, he was saying, look, we have this chemical that we used to not have in our food supply. And I recognize why they're doing it, but it was just one of those examples of, well, I really don't want to have that chemical going into my system. So what can I do? Well, I want to work on my detox pathways, because I'm sure I'm eating those inadvertently. I want to make sure that I have my mineral baselines. I want to make sure that I am managing my lifestyle, getting my body on a schedule. And then we want to make sure we have a stress outlet, because stress burns up so many minerals. Again, stress isn't a disease. It just makes every disease literally worse, right? So when we talk about health versus unhealth, I love giving this example to people when it comes to getting the right foods in your system, and also making sure that we have a stress outlet. And one of the examples that my dad, who was a practicing physician, would always tell me is that deviation from God's law, we call a sin. And the corollary he was making with this is deviation from the laws of biology is a symptom. So always the goal with medical nutritional therapy is to put people back in balance, so we don't have a deviation from the laws of biology. And so going back and looking at your knife and fork should be your foundation. And I also wanted to remind people, and I talk all the time about medical nutritional therapy and food insurance, but if we're not putting a good baseline in our system, like if we're putting fast, cheap, and easy foods into our system, you can't make up for it just by taking supplements. You need to have the best food you have and the best nutritional therapy. And the medical nutritional therapy is just a building block on your lifestyle and your cornerstone. So I love this little picture that we've got up on the screen on what I call the baseline. So the core foundation for health really comes down to a couple different things. And so I'm just going to list those off as essential healthy fats. Number one, I think vitamin D is I always say vitamin C is my favorite vitamin. And then my number 1A vitamin next to it is vitamin D. And then minerals. So many people are deficient in minerals, particularly magnesium, and a mineral that hardly everybody talks about, and that's phosphorus. And why the calcium and magnesium, calcium for phosphorus, why those ratios are so important. And then a broad spectrum multivitamin. So when people say, what should I do just for the baseline? We want to have fats. We want to have vitamin D. We want to have minerals. And then if we have some of those trace essential nutrients, so many health problems are really, really improved with just this formula. And I just wanted to highlight for a second an importance of this, just talking about magnesium. So like, I'm going to say the number one thing that I can really help with is, muscle function, mineral health, restless leg syndrome, inability to relax, blood pressure is helped with this mineral magnesium. So I just wanted to profile, this is just one of the things in a core foundational product. So magnesium is wonderful for cardiovascular disease, congestive heart failure, diabetes, chronic fatigue. I think it's the number one mineral deficiency in fibromyalgia. It helps to prevent kidney stones. It's so good for muscle cramps and pain and restless leg syndrome. And if you think about literally how minerals work, calcium is what helps to make muscles contract, and magnesium is kind of the opposite. It helps to make muscles relax. And so this is why when people say they have muscle cramps, I hear people saying all the time, well, I took calcium and I took potassium. I had some pickle juice or I ate a banana, and they're not always picking up magnesium. I love magnesium because it's so important for the nervous system. And we talk all the time about minerals and nerves transmission. Well, magnesium really helps those impulses. It helps to regulate temperature. It's important for detoxification of reactions. And approximately 50% of the total magnesium found in the body is in the bones. So everybody talks about bone health with calcium, but if we don't have the right type or right amount of magnesium, we can't have healthy bones. This is why I think it's so important, if you're told that you have weak bones or if you have osteoporosis, that we need a multi-mineral approach instead of just calcium. And I've already went on the route about why calcium carbonate is so bad for people, which is the most available and cheapest calcium. Unfortunately, it's the least effective. Also, magnesium is really good for sleep disturbances, mood disorders, and it's critical for metabolism. Another one that is important to have in a broad spectrum multivitamin is to have phosphorus. Now, phosphorus is the energy molecule of the body. Actually, it's phosphorus and there's sulfur, but I love phosphorus because it's so important for bones, teeth, and cell membranes. And then they have these little units of power inside every cell. And this is so important to recognize. I feel that most sicknesses, if not all, literally come from a cellular breakdown. And so if you can help the cell to be healthy, then what happens is it makes the tissues and it makes the organs and it makes the overall system healthy. And inside of these cells, we have these little powerhouses called mitochondria. And mitochondria need phosphorus to generate energy. And energy is what makes people healthy. If you have adequate energy, you are going to be healthy. And when we do that, we can fix cells. Phosphorus regulates the function of nerves and muscles and the heart. It's a building block of our genes, so it makes DNA and RNA and the adenosine triphosphate, which is the building block and the source of energy. And so many times people are deficient in minerals. They're not getting it from their diet. They're not absorbing it. Matter of fact, I think we could probably make the argument that minerals are more important than vitamins because every vitamin has a mineral center. And if we have healthy probiotics and healthy gut, we can literally generate vitamins. We can generate different types of B vitamins inside of our GI system if we have the right minerals. Now, going back to quality again, one of the things that's really important is so many times people come in the office and say, okay, Dr. West, I tried XYZ vitamin. I tried vitamin C, or I tried minerals, or I tried St. John's wort for my nerves, or I tried some phosphatidylcholine for my brain, and it didn't really work. And I'll ask them, where did you get it? Well, Dr. West, I got 10,000 pills over at the big box store for $4.99. And one of the first things I say is, well, you kind of get what you pay for. And especially with nutrients in America, there's a good, bad component of it. the good component is that it's readily available. We had something called the DSHEA Act that happened in 90s. I think it was 1994, where we said that there are so many things important for life that supplements can't be regulated. So we don't have big pharma sitting over there charging tons and tons of money for vitamins, minerals, herbs, homeopathics, supplements, etc. But we also, on the flip side of it, there's no regulation there either. This is why, particularly when it comes to herbs, it's so important to understand, where did you get the active component? For example, echinacea. I see this all the time. Echinacea is one of my favorite things for the immune system. I love it. Now, I don't take it all the time as preventative. It's not a prophylactic medicine. It's something that I use in acute medicines. But if you think about the plant breakdown, there's the root, there's the stem, there's the leaf, and there's the flower. Now, typically, echinacea tea comes from the roots, but the echinacea that seems to get the most benefit comes from the flower, right? And unethical manufacturers can take echinacea stems and say, oh, there is echinacea in here, and they put together a product that has little effect or little benefit. And so it's really important to understand that. That's why I was like, I'm going to do a show just on where to get healthy nutrients and healthy vitamins and healthy minerals. And so when it comes to effectiveness, it's so important to understand, for minerals, for essential fatty acids, is the correct bioavailable form? Do we have the correct dosage? And do we have the correct delivery? And so it's important to recognize that, man, there is a lot of stuff on the market that is just pure junk. And I said this in our radio show promo. When people bring in supplements, sometimes I feel like saying, I'm just going to dump out the supplements and I'm going to have the patient eat the bottle, because they might get a little bit of a colon scrubbing mechanism with all this. Now, obviously, I'm joking. I don't want anybody to eat plastic or polyvinyl chloride. But there is some stuff that I look at it and I look what's in there and I look at the ratios and I'm like, this is horrible. Like, I don't even know what to do with it. Like, I guess we could go out and try and grind it up and put it in your lawn or your garden so that the minerals will break down and maybe we can get some uptake in something that you grow. But a couple of the signs of junk supplements is, number one, price. And then we want to look at fillers, what's in it. And this happens all the time. A lot of times you can evaluate whether something is good or not good by just looking at, and taking a whiff out of the bottle. I see this happen all the time in poor quality essential fatty acids, and particularly fish oil supplements, where I don't know if it was improper temperature regulation, if it was being shipped to the store or shipped to someone's house and it got too hot, and you open that bottle and it smells rancid. Matter of fact, the other thing that I see is, if there's not a combination of essential fatty acids, you want to not just have one single essential fatty acids. I see this happen all the time, where if we have additional additives, when I talk about additives, different types of minerals and EPA and DHA inside of essential fatty acid formula, what happens is the quality goes up. I had a patient come in and say, look, Dr. West, I've got this fish oil. It's a lot cheaper than what you sell in the office. And I said, well, let's look at the labels. And I took a combination fish oil that we use all the time. And we took her bottle. And when we started going through what she would have to take, she literally had to take about 16 different pills of the lesser cost fish oil than it would be to take 2 of this combination that we had put together in the office. And it's not just essential fatty acids that happen. It's mineral formula. It's multivitamin formulas. And so it's really frustrating for me to see people flushing their money away by trying to get or being marketed to with, hey, it's just cheap. Here, let's just take this, and it literally covers everything. So money-saving mega bottles that you see in so many of the big box chain stores, like, not only is it less effective, but I think it has the potential to do the opposite. It makes your body work harder. And so we've been talking about supplement simplification of literally if we can get to a baseline. And so anybody listening, if the baseline is this, like if we can get a good essential fatty acid formula, which is a combination of EPA and DHEA and omega-3s. So I like to literally, another way to say it is you want fish oils, you want evening primrose oil or avocado oil is another consideration, a healthy DHA oil. Then we want to make sure that we're covering vitamin D, which we're going to be talking about in the next segment. And I have this wonderful paper that I wrote a couple of years ago called The Little Pill That Prevents Cancer. And the doctor that wrote it was saying out of all the things to do to help prevent the big C word it was using vitamin D. We're going to talk specifically about vitamin D and why people think that if they just get out into the sun, it may not be enough. We're also going to be hitting the minerals. We're going to talk a little bit about selenium. We're going to be talking about iodine. We've talked mostly about magnesium before, but we're also going to be talking about vitamin C and how it donates electrons to the body and why and how you get different things. I have a resource to help people to get things if you need a supplement baseline. I also have some specific recommendations on medical nutritional therapy for different conditions. We're going to hit mainly on energy, because if you don't have energy, you're not healthy. So you guys have been listening to America's Healer with Dr. Jason West on the Voice America platform. We're also streaming on a couple different platforms at a later dates. If you have questions, remember you should give us a call at 866-472-5792. In addition, I have a wonderful ebook that I can give to my listeners. If you're heading over to Voice America, we've got a couple different reports. And I said Voice America, I meant americashealer.com. That's my website on why we get sick and what to do about it. I'm excited to pick up where
on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
Resiliency is the human capacity to lean into individual and collective strengths with compassion and grit when faced with the challenges of lived experience. Join host Elaine Miller-Karras for Resiliency Within, a program of hope and healing designed to inspire you to integrate wellness into your life, your family, and your community. In challenging times, you'll want to tune in every week. Resiliency Within can be heard every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel.
You're listening to America's Healer with Dr. Jason West. If you have a question for Dr. West or his guests, feel free to join us on the show at 866-472-5792. That's 866-472-5792. Now, back to the show.
All right, you guys, I'm excited to be able to tell you how we can really have the rubber hit the road, where we can get really good benefit for different conditions with medical nutritional therapy, which I call supplement therapy or food insurance. So as we began the show, we were talking about, can you get everything from your knife and fork? And the answer is I absolutely encourage everyone to eat as healthy and as clean as possible. So when you sit down to eat, you should have a rainbow of colors on your plate. We should have some red, we should have some green, some white, some orange. I think it's a really good rule to follow, that the more colorful your food is, the healthier that you are. And of course, I have just a kind of a dad joke where I say, Skittles and Starburst M&Ms don't count. It has to be plant-based materials. So your food intake is the number one building block for your health. And right behind that is, are we getting enough water into your system? Water is so underrated as something that is healthy, and it helps with arthritis. It helps with moods and emotions. It's literally the oil for the Tin Man on the Wizard of Oz. He wasn't as healthy as he could be because he didn't have enough oil. That's what water does for people. And then I like to use supplements as literally food insurance. And we're going to be talking about the most important types of nutrients in this segment. And we started off talking a little bit about the miracle mineral, which is magnesium. We started talking a little bit about vitamin D and why it's so important, and why I keep referencing this paper that I read years ago called The Little Pill That Prevents Cancer. And it was all about vitamin D supplementation and what those levels are. And living in a little railroad town in Idaho, like up here, it's really hard for you to get the right type of sun exposure, which converts essential fatty acids in your skin to cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D. And we're going to talk about, shadows and when you should be out in the sun. And for someone like me, like I like being outside. I'm outside a lot after work hours, but there's a really important component that you can't really make vitamin D unless your shadow is shorter than you are. And so for me, like I'm outside in the evenings and I'm just not out at the time when we literally have the right angle to convert sunlight into vitamin D. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that in this section, and just some healthy components. One of the things I wanted to talk about of supplement sourcing is something that I call professional quality supplements. And why I like those and those companies is because professional quality supplements have strict guidelines of how to access it, how to dispense it. They employ a third-party inspectors, and it's so important for the supplement and the dispensing healthcare provider to protect reputation that I see a lot of benefit. And I only use professional quality supplements because you get the right therapeutic dosage with the right amounts and the synergism. And so one of the things that people ask all the time, look, if there was just one thing to take, and this is so important to help people to cut down on pill overload and pill volume. And by the way, it's something that I need to clarify to the universe, that I kind of feel a little bit bad for some of the experiences that I've had in the office with people where I've accidentally given them 10, 12, 15 different supplements because they say, well, I need to do something for my brain. And I'll say, okay, well, then we should be taking alpha-poic and glyphosphocholines. And then I want to do something with my hormones. And I don't like it, if at all possible, to give a synthetic hormone, which means we have something that comes from the outside. I call it a xenohormone outside. And because the body gets really dependent on that. So whenever possible, I want to avoid thyroid supplementation. It's not always possible, especially if you've had, thyroid cancer and your thyroid removed. You have to have some type of pharmacological thyroid. I also don't like to really give testosterone or estrogen or progesterone in the hormone form. I like to give natural hormone precursors, which allow the body to make hormones. And so people say, well, where do you get it? So I just wanted to give an example of where you can get it over here on the screen. And for people listening on the radio, you can go to the West Clinic online and just select on the shop icon. And I have something that I have formulated for me and my family to help cut down on pill volume. And it's called Superheroes Essential Pack. And what's in the pack is we have some B vitamins, we have some calcium malate, some magnesium malate, and a little omega-3s combination program, and a vitamin mineral supplement. Now, I put it together in a pack so that it's really easy for people to get up in the morning, and easy being me and my boys that I want to have them healthy. I want to make it so that they can take something. So if you're traveling or anything like that, there's a really easy pill pack that we have called Superhero Essentials. Now it's up on our website, americashealer.com. You can see that. Now, there are lots of places where you can get everything that I'm talking about in the pack. You can get essential fatty acids. You can get calcium malate or calcium lactate or magnesium malate. You can also get selenium and iodine. And I want people to recognize it's important that you have access to it. Like, I don't care where you get it. I just want to make sure that you have it inside of your daily regimen, because I think that there's so many benefits for having that. So when we start looking at numbers, like this is one of the reasons why I custom formulated this pack, is 50% of women are deficient in essential fatty acids and in minerals, and 43% of men. And I don't know exactly where the study got the exact numbers, but I do know this. So many women struggle, and it's not just women, so many people struggle with health metabolism. By far, it's having too much stored energy. And so I have a little joke inside of my office where I don't use the F word, which is FAT. We use the word stored energy. But when we talk about overall energy and vitality, if you're missing these building blocks, you are going to be down in first gear instead of fifth gear. So many times people will say, I just am missing, like I'm not as sharp as I used to be. I don't have as much vitality as I used to be. And so when we get a good baseline, a comprehensive multivitamin into people, what happens is we start making a huge impact. So there's a study that came out that said if we could just get people on a good multivitamin, we could decrease the impact of diabetes and the risk factors for developing type 2 diabetes. And they recommended just helping. If we got chromium and we got vitamin D in the system, it improves fasting glucose and it lowers blood pressure levels. For brain health, in a comprehensive multivitamin program, if you have some vitamin E and vitamin C, you're less likely to develop dementia in a medical research study on a 5-year follow-up study. And for me, one of the things that I tell people all the time, look, I don't care about gray hair and wrinkles. Like I've accepted that I am going to age. I just want to age as gracefully and as slowly as possible. But the biggest thing that I want to avoid is any memory issues. And I am really, really aware of all of these different things that we can put inside of the body. Ginkgo, phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, vitamin E, vitamin C, to decrease our risk factors for dementia. Also, looking at other things that should be in an essential vitamin pack, and this is something that I put together in our pack. But if you're looking at your label and you want to know if there's some good things in your multivitamin intake, you want to make sure that you have some tocotrienols, which is a type of vitamin E, that we have healthy absorbable minerals, calcium malate, calcium or magnesium malate, your B vitamins, which, by the way, one of the biggest things that's depleted in chronic stress patterns is your B vitamins. Chronic stress is something, if I walked outside and I saw a bear or a snake or a tarantula, a couple things would happen. My pupils would constrict, my breathing rate would go up, my heart rate would go up, my blood pressure would go up, and I would be flooded with adrenaline and epinephrine. It's that fight or flight response. Well, the body really can't tell the difference by going outside and seeing, a snake or a spider and having severe relationship stress, financial stress, work stress, coworker stress, kids acting up, aging parents, political stress, weather stress, jobs. Like the body is like it's stress. And it burns up B vitamins. This is why it's so important to have colorful foods on your plate, but also in a multivitamin, we really want to have a comprehensive B vitamin. I don't like iron unless you need iron. So the easiest way to figure this out, let's just do a blood test and let's look at your total iron levels. If you're low, it's going to help to bring up your red blood cell health, your hemoglobin, your hematocrit levels. However, if you have adequate or high levels, adding iron when you don't need it is going to literally be a stressor that you don't need, and it's going to make you unhealthy. Vitamin D3, calcium, and ratios with calcium to potassium, calcium to phosphorus, calcium to magnesium. And then we're going to talk real quick about selenium and iodine. Okay, so inside of the multivitamin, it's also nice to have some essential fatty acids and bioflavonoids, which I was taught that is literally known as vitamin P, and it is a cofactor. Bioflavonoids really have the benefit of making vitamin C work. That's the benefit. And then choline helps to, inositol is a specific that helps your nerves to be healthy. So also looking at multivitamins, if we have capsules, I think are much more effective than tablets. And I'm just going to hit these really fast. I've got about 3 minutes to finish up. That if there was one thing to take, number one, it's vitamin D. 3 to 5,000 units is what I'm taking. The next thing would be vitamin C, and then essential healthy fats. 90% of Americans are deficient in fatty acids that increase inflammation, and they don't protect the nerves. And so many times people say, well, I love fish, I'm just going to eat it. Well, one of the problems in our food supply is we don't have very good healthy essential fatty acids in farm-raised fish. And the omega benefits for arthritis, for weight loss, for brain health, type 2 diabetes are so important. Everybody, I think, benefits from essential fatty acids. And then where I really want to focus literally the 2 minutes that we have left is on vitamin D. So it's called a vitamin, but it's really not. It's more of a hormone. And every cell has a vitamin D3 receptor. We can synthesize it from the sun, but that goes back to essential fatty acids. If we don't have essential fatty acids in our system, when the sunlight hits the skin, we can't convert it into cholecalciferol. And you can't really do that unless your shadow is shorter than your height. So vitamin D reduces cancer, multiple sclerosis risk factors, type 1 diabetes, helps with fractures, helps prevent heart attacks. It's really good for pain relief and weight management. And this is just based upon a study that showed if people supplemented with 3,000 international units of vitamin D, and for me in the wintertime, I take 10, in the summertime, I take 5. It also has some dramatic benefits for improving sex drive, anti-aging, having healthy energy levels, and helping your body fight off upper respiratory tract infections. So everyone, as we get ready to wrap up America's Healer with Dr. Jason West, I just wanted to tell you where you can get some resources and then what we're going to be talking about next week. 4 resources. Please check out our website, americashealer.com. I talk about the Superheroes Essentials Pack that has all of the stuff that we've talked about for baseline. It has your minerals, it has your essential fatty acids, it has your vitamin D3 in it. It has a little bit of selenium, and it has iodine, and it has the right type of magnesium. Also, we have a wonderful ebook and resources over there at americashealer.com. We're going to be back next week talking more about supplements and how it helps with so many healthcare conditions. I'm delighted to be able to go out and reach, teach, and heal the world through the platform of getting education. I'll see you guys next week. Dr. Jason West and America's Healer.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. America's Healer, Dr. Jason West, will be back next week to share more of his expertise. So don't miss it. Until then, have a great week.